if you look at negative emotions as a sign, as something that you can use to figure out what is it in your life that you need to change, you're more likely to be where you want to be than if you were to just avoid it completely.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Have a Nice Day podcast with your host, Janine.
And Joshua.
I don't know why for a second I blanked out. I'm like, do I still know the name of our podcast?
No, because she hasn't done the intro in a very long time.
I know.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for you to say Have a Nice Day, but then I said I would do the intro. Today's a very special day, as all of our podcasts, and in honor of World Mental Health Day, not awareness, Mental Health Day, we have a special guest. He is a certified life coach. He is a mental health advocate. He's also a half Indian and half Iranian, which we just found out a few minutes ago, which is great. He has a podcast, which is called The Monk with Braids podcast, and you can find him on Instagram, finding_lighthouses. His name is Sahil.
Let's give it up. Welcome to the
Hi.
podcast.
You guys are great marketers. I wish I had you as like a marketing person.
Well, we can talk about our fees later on.
I love that. No, thank you guys so much.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm
Great.
Actually, okay. I'm great. Yesterday was a really tough day. I can't wait
Okay,
to talk
tell us
about
about it.
So yesterday, I actually had my first anxiety attack in a while,
Wow.
which is really interesting because before I came here, I was like, as like a certified life coach, I've been a therapist before, I've been in therapy before. To say that I've had like an anxiety attack, it was the first one I've had in a while. But today I'm feeling great, actually.
Good.
To
That's
be
good,
honest.
that's
Yesterday
good.
was tough, but today is great.
But thank you
But
for saying that, first of all, because
100%
again, I
agree.
just said you're a certified life coach, and sometimes people are like, no, I'm a life coach. I do therapy, like I facilitate it,
Yeah.
but people are not perfect, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
So
doctors
thank
still
you.
can still
get
get
sick.
sick.
Yeah.
It's like not just because they're like a master in that particular field doesn't make them like what's that word?
Not 100%.
Yeah, they're still vulnerable to it. basically.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you say.
So thanks for sharing that. Do you know what triggered it or
Yeah, so recently, I was doing a bit of freelancing before
okay.
and kind of doing my own thing with podcasting, with mental health and life coaching and all of that. But recently, my mom has wanted to retire from her job. So I was like, or just leave her company, which she now has.
Well,
And
She's here.
she's right now traveling the world with her boyfriend.
Wow.
okay.
Go mom.
Yeah. If
Yes.
someone can do it at 50 or like 54,
Yes.
you can do it at any age.
Yes.
wow, okay, that's nice.
So yeah, when she was going through this whole like period and phase in her life when she was wanting to get out of this like corporate life because she's done it for like 30 years now, I was like, you know what, like let me start working like properly and see if there's a place where I can get more money than I'm getting right now. And yeah, so life has been busy and I haven't had a lot of time to process my emotions as much as I should.
Yeah.
And it's been a while now that I'm like used to being very social and having like parents and family around. But right now, for the last like couple months, I've not had that. And so I've just done everything to avoid that.
Yeah.
And I think the
Okay.
biggest epidemic is loneliness. No one wants to actually feel lonely.
Yeah.
And loneliness is the weakness of being alone. Solitude is the strength of being alone.
Yeah.
But
wow, that's
yeah,
very well said. Wow.
yeah. So I have been fighting loneliness and trying my best to get away from it. And I've done amazing at my job because of it. So I will give props to it. But yesterday was the first time when all the unprocessed emotions from a recent breakup, all the fears or insecurities that I had finally caught up to me. And because I'm like in the house by myself right now, it's a big house,
Yeah.
one person. It's a house for like 3 or 4 people.
Okay.
You had no choice but to process.
No,
It was
choice
just
but to
there.
pro-
And
It was
be alone
there.
with your thoughts.
Exactly.
and yeah, it's a scary place to be sometimes.
But the thing is, like, how do I explain this? Okay, imagine you have a thorn that's in your arm and it's like touching a nerve of yours, right? And you love clubbing, but every time you go clubbing, people are jumping and dancing and the thorn gets hit, and so it hurts because of your nerve. So you stop clubbing. And then you love hanging out with people, you love being social, but every time you hug someone or get close to someone, again, the thorn gets hit, the nerve gets hit, so it hurts. So you do everything to avoid the thorn being touched, and then you end up being isolated.
Mm.
The question, like, what I've realized is that I'm talking about like a physical thorn, but we have like metaphorical thorns, and fears, emotions, certain thoughts and insecurities are exactly like the thorn, but within your heart.
Mm.
And so for me, what would you guys do if you had a thorn like in your arm?
I think the first thing to do is address the thorn. Why is exactly there?
Yeah,
What you can try to do to get it out.
yeah, exactly.
Because, as long as you live with it, with just being there, of course, it's going to be an inconvenience. Every time you think or you do something, you're going to keep that thorn in mind. Like, okay, can I go do something without this being touched or something like that? So
Exactly. So what I've realized is that you have two choices. Either you remove the thorn and it hurts in the moment, but then the thorn is gone, or you just keep it because you don't want to feel the pain of it being removed. And with fears, with insecurities, with negative emotions, it's the same thing.
Mm.
And so yesterday, the reason why I was tough was because usually when I have something like that, when negative emotions, when fears, when insecurities come up, I would do anything to avoid that feeling. And that would be socializing, that would be doing content, that would be going to work. But at some point, you have to sit with the feeling, validate it, because there's toxic positivity as well.
Yeah.
100% agree.
And you need to really experience what it feels to have this emotion, because if you don't let the emotion pass through you, it's going to get stuck and it's going to continue building up. So at some point, you just have to breathe, relax, and just let it go. So
I think that's what's difficult, right? Because nowadays a lot of people are just busy beyond like social media, getting distracted, going to work, just trying to get through life.
Just trying to get that small dopamine hit, with all these.
yeah,
Socializing, taking care of yourself, taking care of others, plus if you're a parent, trying to just make ends meet, that most of the time your mental health is not your priority.
yeah,
So
100%.
but it's tough because, again, if you don't at least make it one of your priorities,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to move further.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that you need to tackle because it's something that's definitely going to hinder you from doing so many things in the future.
Mm.
Like what you said, it's going to be very discomforting, especially addressing that particular thorn. Where is it stemming from? What are the steps that you can do, and it gets super overwhelming for people and they don't know where to start. And of course, there's still that stigma. Like I'm giving therapy like a huge shout out over here, where it's, but it's still like in that stigma or in that particular box where it's like, oh, if you go for therapy, you might be weak, And
Yeah.
there's this whole thing about this red pill movement and about this
Ignoring your emotions.
ignoring your
and-
emotions, just maybe
Yeah.
just go
you're being
crazy
too
at the gym, just
emotional.
lift heavy weights, go, what do you call it, bury yourself in work and all those kinds of things, except for like actually doing the first thing that you should be doing, which is speaking to someone about
Addressing.
those problems.
Yeah.
And of course, some people think it's, it makes me look weak. My parents never went to therapy and they're in a relatively good place. They're mentally strong. They're taking care of their family and stuff. But now times are changing and
And I think it's great that you said that because the theme of this year is to make mental health a universal human right,
yeah, the
right?
theme for this year's
Yes. So mental health is a universal human right to improve knowledge, raise awareness, and drive actions that promote and protect everyone's mental health as a universal human right. So it is that important, mental health.
Is it? Sorry, go on.
No. Sorry, because I was just thinking like we're not even like 5 minutes into the podcast when he
It
brought
got
up
deep real quick.
when he brought up I had a panic attack yesterday, and that's
Yeah.
something like I don't know, like do you go and tell someone you just met for the first time, oh, I had a panic attack yesterday? But there's some people who are really in tune with their mental health, their emotions, that they're like, I had a anxiety attack yesterday,
Yeah,
but
mental
I'm doing so
breakdown.
much better. I managed to understand where it's coming from, and now like today is a new day, and I know what I have to get done. And it's such a beautiful thing, because you won't, like, if I meet my best friend and we'll just talk about like work, maybe we'll like talk crap about people and stuff, but never like, where is this all
That's why
stemming
it's
from?
there's the saying, right? It's okay not to be okay
Mm.
all the time. Like, again, we're not perfect. There are days when we're great, everything's going amazing, but there are those days when you're left alone with your thoughts and you have to assess, this is happening.
Yeah, you brought
I'm
it up. Yeah,
feeling
this
sad.
I don't know if it's the same definition, but this whole toxic positivity, is that
Yeah.
basically that, like, where you're like, every day has to be a great day, and I'm gonna be I don't know, is it the same sort of thing? Because I've heard this term.
Yeah, I guess, how do you define toxic positivity? It's just
Yeah.
like shoving all the positivity when things are actually not okay and just burying,
Is that it?
Yeah,
sweeping
toxic
it under the
positivity
rug.
is like, have you ever, when someone runs away from something, what do you think? Are they courageous? Are they strong? Are they powerful? Or are they scared?
Scared.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah.
So when you run away from mental health, that's not courageous, powerful, or right? So toxic positivity is you minimizing, invalidating any emotion you're feeling. Basically, the quote, replace a positive thought with a negative thought. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's when the most important thing is awareness. I believe the most important thing is awareness. So you need to know and be aware of yourself to know, at what point do I stop sulking in the negativity, and at what point should I actually experience it and ponder on it to figure out what is it that's causing it, right? So there's like a line, right? At some point you accept that you have this thing, or you're having these thoughts, and you try to figure out where it comes from. But then at some point you have to get out of that and do something with it. So awareness of being able to know when to reflect and to validate your feelings and to just feel everything, because at the end of the day, negative emotions are something that we're meant to feel. Same with positive emotions. So just as you feel positive emotions, you should feel negative emotions. Toxic positivity is the inability to feel negative emotions because you're afraid of them, or you're afraid of what they're going to reveal. And at the end of the day, that's all negative emotions are. They're just revealing things that you need to work on.
Right.
They're revealing things that you're insecure about, that you're fearful of, things that you've gone through that you're unable to let go of.
Yeah.
And if you look at negative emotions as a sign, as something that you can use to figure out what is it in your life that you need to change, you're more likely to be where you want to be than if you were to just avoid it completely.
Yeah. It's definitely
Yeah.
not a sign of weakness that you have these negative thoughts or these, sadness or depression in your life. And I think what's brave and what's courageous and what makes people strong is actually going through those emotions and acknowledging them and being aware about them. It might not be your emotions, but also other people around you. And I think that's the first step. You're right. Awareness.
I would I
Yeah.
would say so.
Yeah.
I like one thing that has really
Struck you.
struck me in this whole thing is because like people are really afraid of just tapping into that particular corner of their mind where it's like negative emotions. And I've heard so many people say like you need to experience the negative as well to really enjoy the positive.
Yeah.
It's true.
So it's
If you don't go through the lows, how would you know what the highs are?
exactly
Right?
well said. Yeah,
Life
it's
is so
such a
difficult.
weird but beautiful thing, isn't it?
I just want to backtrack a little bit and maybe let's go through your early days. What brought you to, being a mental health advocate and training to be a life coach, because you're certified, so you've gone through trainings as well. What sparked in you to say, this is where I want to be?
Yeah. Wow. We only have an hour to do this. So I struggled with anxiety and depression for like a really long time, all throughout school, in university. This is the part where I'm really honest. When I was, just before I went to university, I wanted to find a way to avoid the voice in my head that was talking and that was constantly saying negative things. So I would do everything to avoid that. I changed my whole life and my external environment to prevent any insecurity from the thorn from being touched, essentially. And I was not confident, so I'd buy expensive clothes. So I had so many things, and I battled with addiction for a while as well. So during my last years of school, I was not conscious at all. I was basically high all the time, and I was just gone.
Yeah.
And when I went to university in the UK, because everything is so readily available and it's so easy to get, I really, really sunk deep. I'm talking 15 joints a day, 4 pills a day.
Wow.
Yeah, because I constantly tried to avoid everything that brought me to that place. And at first it was people. Then I completely isolated myself. At some point it was food because I wasn't happy with the way I looked. So there would be 3 or 4 days where I just wouldn't eat at all.
Oh, way, wow.
Yeah. And no drinks as well. So I would avoid that. There were days when... And then at some point, you're just avoiding your mind speaking, which is like always there. So then you just don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And I remember the main thing that caused it was, so this one time I had taken way too many pills and I had an overdose. So I remember being in my room. I was with my flatmate and he was upstairs and I was downstairs. I remember sitting on the floor and I'm just like panting and I have all these like crazy emotions and everything. And just before I overdosed, like I thought I was dying essentially, right? So I was like, you know what? If I were to go, it's fine. Like at some point my family's gonna move on. At some point my friends gonna move on.
Already.
Yeah, that was the first time. It sounds crazy.
Yeah.
That was the first time I felt peace because I was like, after this, that's it. I'm gone.
Yeah.
And then I remember waking up next morning alive and I was like, oh, this again. And that was such a like...
So you're actually sad that you woke up from that
Yeah.
overdose.
Yeah, and no one knew about it. My friends didn't know about it. My parents didn't know about it
okay.
until last year.
Wow.
So you woke up in your own room.
Woke up in my own room on the
I thought
floor.
you like woke up on like in a hospital bed or something.
No.
You just your body just managed to.
Yeah.
To get over
So
it.
I remember maybe 10 or 11. That's when I like took the pills and then literally woke up at 4 a.m. and I was kind of just fine and I moved on with my life like nothing had happened.
Wow.
So I didn't tell anyone about it until literally last year. I told my parents and like
Not
my
even
friends
your
about it.
flatmate knew what was happening.
No, he
underneath
didn't even know.
his
He
bed.
didn't even know I was taking that many drugs. To be honest,
He didn't even know he had a roommate. Who's there in the downstairs room?
Wow, that's tough. You're going through that alone as a young man,
Yeah,
living, I'm assuming, away from your family because your family
Yeah.
was here.
yeah.
So you woke up the next day. Did you have like this realization, like, okay, never again am I gonna be touching these pills or these drugs. I'm gonna start new, or no? It was just like, okay, looks like I can go back to taking pills in the evening again. Or
After waking up, 2 hours later, I had my first pill again.
Oh,
So it
Yeah.
was just like,
Yeah.
it was a never-ending thing.
so it was not even a life-changing moment. That's
Not
how
at
down
all.
in the
Mm.
dumps
But
you were.
Yeah,
Yes.
but when that happened, that was one of the moments where I was like, wow, like I can't believe, like, you always hear about people having overdoses and being addicted to drugs, but I was so unconscious and not awake that I didn't even know these things were happening. They would just happen.
yeah.
So I would just almost get kicked out of my school. I would just almost have a huge fight with my parents and it would just happen. And I almost felt disassociated from life. And I was like, these are things just happening, no control of it.
Yeah.
The thing that really had an impact was once, my friend and I had a party at our house. And basically, I was the type of person, when I'm addicted to something, I want to keep it within myself.
Mm-hmm.
He was the type of person that's like, if I'm addicted to something, I'm happy to introduce it to other people.
Okay.
Okay.
And so we had bought really strong ketamine,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and
crap.
we basically had 4 people in. And by the way, I couldn't fund my addiction with my parents' money,
Yeah.
so I became a dealer as well.
Okay.
So I become a dealer.
You're deep in that whole lifestyle. then.
Yeah, it was the worst thing ever. People coming to my house with weapons. This is a very normal thing. Like, being a dealer, and I had created a personality that when I left the house, this is the person I was. I'd come back home and be like, I hate that guy. That's not me at all. So anyways, become a dealer, start doing a lot of drugs continuously. I bought some ketamine for me and my friend, and to sell. And I told him, don't let anyone have this because it's very strong. It's pretty much just for us because we're super addicted. So we need strong doses. Literally that night in my house, 4 people had an overdose.
Oh my gosh.
In one night. And I'm just there kind of like in my room, seeing these 2 people and then 2 people in the living room, just like having like a ketamine attack and not being able to move. And that was the moment where I was like, damn, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Seeing other people going through it.
Yeah. Because I was always like, I want to go through it, no one else.
Yeah.
And then and I was the one dealing. So seeing them overdose,
so
it was
your
just
supply that they're in this
in your
particular
house.
station.
Yeah, I'm actually shaking like talking about
Yeah,
it. But
you started feeling like, okay, I'm in charge because this is all me.
Yeah, this is
so you felt
doing basically.
Yeah, it was horrible. And then the next day, I remember I was having an argument with my friend. He was like sitting there. Our dealer was there, and then his girlfriend was there. And I'm just sitting on the floor, like screaming at him. We're having an argument. And then I'm having an anxiety attack. At some point, I'm just looking at him and the moment, and this felt like this moment lasted so long, but it was literally like 2 seconds. It's like a pilot piloting his plane. He goes in, he puts it on autopilot, leaves the cockpit, comes back, and he sees everything falling down. Like he sees the plane is just crashing. And that moment when I had that argument with my friend, that's exactly what it felt like. Because I had exams, all my exams, didn't even do them. I was in the city, didn't even attend, didn't do the essay. I did not complete my first year. I did, but I basically did my first year and second year of uni all in my second year. So all the modules for my first year, I did in my second year because I just did not complete any of my exams.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the moment where I realized that something really needs to change. At that moment, that's when I told my mom about me trying LSD for the first time. And after hearing that, like typical Indian mother, she's like, oh my God, like this is the worst, this is the lowest you've ever been, not knowing I was doing pills for a while, not knowing I was a dealer for a while, not knowing I had overdosed and tried to commit suicide before. Like she did not know any of these things. And she hears that I do LSD and she's like, wow, my world is falling. So she introduces meditation to me.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
That was the first time. The first 7 days didn't do anything for me, but by the 8th day, I was like, wow. It took all the negative, dark clouds that I had away from me for like 30 minutes or 15 minutes. And that's essentially what started the change. After I started meditating, I started to realize that I always thought because I was a psychology major, ironic because I wasn't able to fix myself, I always thought that you are a collection of the things you've done in your past and your genetics.
Right.
My genetics weren't the best. The things I did in the past were not the best. It was kind of when I realized that the habits you choose to focus your energy and consciousness on today, that's what makes you who you are.
Yeah.
Not your genetics or not your past.
Correct.
And every moment pretty much is a moment to change. Like you wake up tomorrow morning, you have like thousands and thousands of new cells in your body and thousands of cells that have gone away.
Yeah.
So your body is constantly growing, and every single moment, every single day, you have thousands of new bodies. So your body is basically new every minute.
Yeah.
Every day it's a new body technically.
And same with the brain, right? I
Exactly.
think it was a recent study that they did that you can actually create new neuropaths is what they call. And you can actually train your brain like how you train yourself in the gym to think in a better light, or in a less negative manner, or shift your thoughts elsewhere. So our body is amazing. It's created to actually withstand a lot of things, and as you said, like you're not your past. People can change. It's just, are you willing enough to do so?
Mm.
Are you willing enough to do the change?
Take the steps.
So you're saying day 8 is what?
Day
Sort
8
of.
was when I like first felt dark clouds going away,
Mm.
and I was a different person. Like, I went from being someone that doesn't leave the house, doesn't eat for days, doesn't shower for a week,
Mm.
like does all of that, to then going to university, talking to drivers, talking to people in my seminars, in my lectures, so much so to the point where people are like, "Are you high?" And I was like, "Actually, this is the first time I'm not."
Yeah.
And so, literally yesterday, too anxious, can't get out of my bed, can't take a shower, don't want to eat. Next day, I'm out talking to people. I'm out, like, going out. Like, to me, that was just insane. And I was like, whatever I've gone through in my life before and the person I was, like, today I'm not going to be that.
Yeah.
Like, I have to change. And that's kind of when things started to change. So I realized that all the thoughts, all the things that my mind is saying, like, there's like your brain, which is your body. There's your mind, which is the voice that constantly talks and the thing that controls your brain, kind of. And then there's your spirit and your soul.
Mm.
And people, including me, and sometimes I still do that, they get so attached to this mind because it has all these senses and colors. It's like, imagine going to a cinema and the voice and the video, it's perfectly lined up, right? So it helps you get immersed into this experience of a movie.
Right.
And suddenly you don't even remember that you're in a cinema because you're so engrossed by this movie. Your mind does that to your soul. You have all these senses, emotions, feelings, thoughts that your mind takes your soul. And sometimes you don't make that disconnect. So you just become your thoughts. And I know there is a quote that says you are the thoughts that you have, but I don't really believe in that. I feel like you are the thoughts that you choose to have, and the thoughts that you choose to direct your consciousness to for a long period of time. That's who you become.
Mm.
So exactly, whenever I had time alone, all I did was everything I did, like the thoughts I would have, the way I moved, the way I spoke, every single thing, all I did for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks was I would just clean the house all day long and just think. Why am I doing this? Why am I thinking about this? Where does this come from? And that's when I started journaling. And
Right.
those two things, enough to literally save my life. Because if I think about it then, if I didn't find meditation, if I didn't find journaling, to be honest, I probably would not be here. If I'm being completely honest, I have friends that are not here. I have
Right.
friends that are in jail. So
Yeah.
I most likely would not be here. And that's why when I was going through that suffering, meditation was what I feel the universe was trying to show me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I feel like whenever you go through negative emotions, it's something you have to change, something you have to do different. And for me in that situation, I was able to find the thing that I should do different.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. That's all it is. So, yeah.
I just wanted to say that it's good that you actually opened up and to your mom, because although, you know, at that time it was your choice to do the meditation, to start journaling, it was also that spark that gave you that idea of you have to do meditation, or at least try to do meditation.
Yeah.
And where my point I just want to point out is that for people who are listening, don't be scared to open up.
No.
You know, don't be scared to just share a thought to a friend or even to a stranger. You'll never know what ideas, what, you know, just sparks that. And sometimes when you talk to people, it also brings out the ideas that are actually already in your brain, and it just comes out of your mouth, you know. Sometimes it's just in you and you just have to talk to people. So don't be afraid to talk to people. Like,
yeah. And one thing I've realized recently from talking to people is that I've had conversations with people now that I usually would never speak to. And I have conversations about things that I don't necessarily need to share.
Yeah.
But I've just decided to be more open and honest and vulnerable. And to some extent, you're also giving other people the opportunity to be strong for you. And one of my friends, her name is Janvi. I never thought she was an emotionally intelligent person, but now that I've opened up to her, I think she's the most emotionally intelligent person I know. And yeah, so
Yeah.
you're giving also other people an opportunity to be there for you, which feels good for them. And
Yeah.
you're not doing a service to someone, but for the people that think that they're burdening people, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
Your friends want to be there for you. You have a community there for a reason.
Yeah.
So use it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think we come to a lot of assumptions, right?
Yeah.
We sometimes talk on top of other people, even if that's not what they were thinking, not what they want to do, not what they want to express. And we just create our own idea of things. But if we just take the first step, as what you did, just tell your mom, just be vulnerable, just be honest, you'll never know what will come out of it.
Yeah.
And especially one critical part of that was seeking help. Like, I think it came to a point where you're like, you know what, I need to speak to someone and tell them like what is going on in my life, and let's see if I can try to get some external help. And I think the first person that you thought of, or maybe the first person that you approached, was your mom. And something as simple as meditation, like being alone with your thoughts, sitting down and just like trying to analyze them, like, okay, like what you said, why am I thinking about this? Why is this thought coming into my head? How do I try to tackle it? I think something as simple as that. And you also mentioned journaling, which is something that I hear in almost every like well-being podcast. Like a lot of things that they really center on when it comes to mental health, it was like journaling, fitness, some sort of grounding. So like walking outside, getting some direct sun, spending some time alone in nature or by the beach or something. That those are like the core things that are there in when it comes to taking care of your mental health. But one thing that I want to touch upon, since you mentioned it, is journaling.
Yeah.
We hear it a lot.
Yeah.
You have multiple journals as well. Even I myself have multiple journals.
That makes me so happy to hear that. I love it when people tell me they journal or meditate. It's the best thing ever.
But so for people, journaling is like, okay, so today I woke up, I went to work, I saw my friend after work, and that's it. So what are some things that you advise, or what are some things that you journal about, or what are some key things that you like to journal? And do you do on a daily basis as well, or is it like a maybe like twice a day sort of thing, or is it like some people I know they use a journal to do a to-do list or something that, or just to remind themselves or have some things, because there's some already pre-defined journals in that sense where it's like already printed, okay, here's your quote for the day. Here's one task that I want you to do, like call a friend, speak to them about for 10 minutes. So like there's some prompts, like exactly what you said.
Yeah.
So what are some things or tips that you would want to do in journaling? Because I don't think we've had this discussion about before, right? On journaling.
Yeah. So my journey with journaling began 4 years ago. And to be honest, it's always kind of been there in my life, but I never took it seriously until recently. By recently, I mean like 4 years ago. And I started off journaling just saying what's on my mind. Right now, I have a pretty strict routine.
Right.
So what I do right now is, the first thing I do is, one thing I want to increase is my emotional intelligence.
Okay.
To be able to accept my emotions. But with every single emotion you have, there's a journey to it, right? There's a way of dealing with it. There's a way of managing that emotion. And most people don't even know how many emotions there are. And so what we do is we kind of do something called emotional bias, which is basically when we're feeling frustrated, rather than saying frustrated, we'll say sad, because that's just the first primary emotion we know. And so the way people deal with their emotions is not always the correct way to deal with them, because they're feeling a certain emotion, but they're finding a way to deal with it that's for another emotion. So I'll ask you guys a question. Like, how many emotions, like distinct emotions, do you think there are? There's happiness, sadness. Joy is similar to happiness.
Anxiety, anxiousness. I don't know.
I don't know, like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, maybe even more. I don't know. There's a lot.
There's a lot. But then, like what you said is true. Like they're two different emotions, but
synonymous
it could be,
with each other.
Yeah, I'll just throw out the number 8 or 9.
10. Just to one up you.
I'm going to win that competition.
Yeah.
There's 26.
Wow.
There's 26 emotions, and you can feel so many emotions at the same time. So what I've started to do is I have this thing called an emotion wheel. and it just has a bunch of different emotions in a wheel. And what I do is I write 3 emotions that I'm feeling in this moment right now, and then why I'm feeling them, and then what do I want to do with them, or if I don't want to do anything with them, then I won't write what I want to do with them.
Okay.
That's the first part of it. Then I kind of talk about my day and talk about things I'm grateful for.
Okay.
So not only I'm grateful for this, that's it. No, but I'm grateful for this because of this, and it makes me feel like this, and really explaining myself.
Really
Then
digging deep on why.
yeah,
the why,
exactly.
yeah.
Like knowing why it means so much to you, like being able to understand
Right.
what are your priorities, what does it mean to you, and then that prepares you for the third part of the journaling, which is a to-be list. So we all have a to-do list, which is a list of things we want to do throughout the day, but we never really write about who we want to be. So who do you want to be today? Do you want to be confident? Do you want to be happy? Do you want
That's
to
so
be
cool, yeah.
joyous? Do you want to be more introspective, reflective? Like, what do you want to do? And what do you want to practice? And then what you find is most people do, and then there's a to-do list. But the reason why I put the to-be list before the to-do list is because sometimes people do certain things that don't reflect how they want to feel. So you want to feel happy, you want to feel social, but you'll just be at home playing video games. Although I do play video games at home.
Yeah.
But you'll want to be social, you want to, I don't know, feel proud of yourself, but then you won't set any goals for yourself throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so having a to-be list before a to-do list helps you basically understand who you want to be, what qualities you want to practice. And then when you write your to-do list, you can actually figure out, okay, what am I going to do today to be able to achieve these things that I want to be?
Right.
Then the next day, so I do it daily, the next day you can talk about the 3 emotions you felt. Were they the emotions you felt in your to-be list? Were they not? If not, why? So, yeah.
Something that I did that did not help the goal that I was trying to achieve. That's good because you're not setting yourself up for failure, because sometimes we write down these goals and they're great, they're amazing, but we don't follow up on those goals. We don't put tangible, achievable actions to actually bring us to that particular goal. And without those, 1, 2, 3, maybe there are some people who are just good at just doing things.
Yeah.
But there are some people who, with our day-to-day things and everything that's going on, you can get easily strayed away. So if you don't have this is what I need to do to get to there, it's going to be tough. So I like that. So you do it in the morning?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Every morning.
So this
It's
is
really
your,
helpful.
when you wake up,
Yeah.
walk us through your morning routine.
Yeah, tell us your the day in the life of.
So I pretty much wake up, first thing I do, half asleep, get on my laptop, play a prayer. It's always the same prayer. It's called Tablet of Ahmed. So every time I say that prayer, even if I'm half asleep or if I just fall asleep in the middle of it, I have to listen to it. Then I get up, brush my teeth, go downstairs. I'll journal first, pray second, and meditate third.
Okay.
And I would say the reason I meditate after I pray, which I think is really important, and I'll give an analogy to explain it. In prayer, you're basically speaking to God.
Yeah.
You're basically having conversations with God. But the reason why meditation is important is because meditation is when you're silent and you give God a chance to speak back to you. And so doing it right after your prayer, for me, I think is the best thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gives you a
morning
chance to
routine.
hear the
listen and
voices that sometimes get shut out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I like that analogy. Never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do meditate after I pray, but I never thought of it that way. So that's good. I learned something very new today. It's great.
What's your guys' morning routine?
I'm a morning person, so
I
I wake up early. I open up the curtains in the living room. That's where he sleeps, so he gets some sunlight. I open his crate, but he doesn't come out. He's very lazy in the morning. Then I read my Bible. Then I meditate, say a prayer, meditate a little bit, few minutes. And then I start, getting ready for work. Then I get to work out after work, and then come home. Not work out all the time, probably once or twice a week at this point, but I'm trying my best. Yeah. What's yours?
For me, it's
It's him
very
getting
basic.
woken up by my voice. Wake up.
Yeah, because I don't set an alarm. I'm not a morning person at all. But first thing I do is wake up, do all everything that I have to do in the toilet, walk this boy,
Yeah.
come home. And one thing that's very important for me, and something that I realized is working amazing for me, I don't check my phone
I love that.
for like maybe an hour and a half until I wake up. So usually I walk him around 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 7:30.
That's early.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
quite early
Yeah.
because I walk him, because it's too hot for him. Otherwise, if I try to walk him anytime past 8, walk him, feed him, and I do all the household chores. So because I'm still working from home, so
Mhm.
I still have that luxury. So I'm washing the dishes, vacuuming the house, doing whatever I can, and then from there I start whatever screens have to do. Because I'm like in my day, I need this is the only thing that I don't like about my life, but I need a lot of stimulation. So I'm working, there's a podcast playing. Sometimes I'm also on my phone checking reels, which I hate. I hate my social media addiction that I have. But it's slowly getting better because I don't have any screen time in the morning. And then just go on with my day, do whatever work I have to do. Go to the gym and always and I'm so happy that my gym has a cold plunge
Wow.
pool, so I always end my day with that.
Wow. I love
Yeah.
that. I gotta try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta
Oh.
try that. Some
Have you ever done
Never.
Oh man, it's
Gonna take me, Josh.
Yeah.
I'll take you. I'll take
Yeah, I
you.
wanna
It's no
go.
problem, yeah.
I'll come with you. Why not?
It's very scary. So I started doing cold plunges maybe last year,
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
But I used to pay to this one place in Al Quoz, which is 100 dirhams a dip. And that wasn't sustainable at all because I would like to go once a week and I'm like $100 a week is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we eventually shifted gyms just this year, and this gym has a cold plunge. And she avoids it as much as possible, but for me, it's
You can
something
get
that
me into
really
a
helps me a
sauna,
lot.
but you can't get me into a cold
Yeah,
plunge.
yeah.
So
I love sauna
good.
as well.
Yeah.
Sauna's my thing. Cold
Yeah.
plunge, I've never done it.
Yeah.
And
You
I
should
want
do it
to,
together.
but yeah.
It's 4 degrees. 4.
Oh, really? I
It's
didn't know
4,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
The one in Wafi is 4.
Yeah.
So I
Nothing.
started with 7 degrees. That's when I was going to Al Quoz, and then now it's 4.
That 7 to 4 makes a big difference.
Yeah,
huh?
no,
Just
Yeah.
3 degrees, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's like because our fridge water is at 4 degrees
Yeah.
when we drink.
mm,
So imagine that coldness in your body.
Ugh.
And yeah, and they say you have to stay at least for like 2-3 minutes, but I try to stay at least 8 or 9 minutes, and then
Wow.
I'm done. Yeah.
so I have a question for you guys.
Brave. Yeah.
Like, for mental health, how much of it do you think is lifestyle?
Oh, I think I would say a big percentage
Lifestyle
of it,
in the sense of
exercising, like you're just your
Yeah,
what
like,
you do. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Food.
exactly. Food you have,
Yeah.
exercise, how you choose to live your life, and what you choose to do throughout the day.
oh, I think it's
It's almost
everything.
everything. Yeah. It's very reliant on your lifestyle. I
Yeah.
would say, when
Yeah, I would say almost.
and we always say this, like, it's who you are and what you feel is the food you eat, the thoughts that you choose to have,
The way you treat your
the
body.
way, yeah, the way that
The way the people you surround yourself with.
exactly.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, well, faith is very important as
Mm.
well. And people will disagree, but without faith, I feel like you're just weaving through life that doesn't have like a right path. And it's super, super important to me. So whenever I feel like, okay, I'm getting led elsewhere and I'm not in a place that I want to be, it's always the first thing that I do. Like it helps keep me aligned. And then exercise, food, everything else, spending time with family, spending time with friends. We've
Spending
also
time alone.
we've also, not cut, but we've tried to stay away from people that we don't align with, not necessarily like cutting ties
Not
or friendship.
Cut. Cutting
Wow.
is quite
Yeah.
tough to say, but maybe ignore.
Yeah, we just
Or-
don't,
Leave them on red.
Yeah, leave them on red. Perfectly said. Yeah.
but we try not to spend time with people that we don't align with
Yeah.
in terms of, their ways of living and all that. So
Yeah.
we try to keep our or at least close friend, like our friend circle, very tight knitted.
like a close friend circle. It's more quality over quantity.
Yeah.
In
Because
this
you're-
time, this is the point where you realize, the moment you become an adult, that's when you realize a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because when you're young, you like you mentioned, you were just like, okay, I have like 15 friends I can call. Yeah, and we'll all wear our Nike shoes together, and we'll all have a competition.
Yeah.
And then you start adulting, and you realize, okay, I just need like a pair of shoes that I can actually walk in and protect my feet. Like there is some things that you
Time is limited.
yeah,
And you
exactly,
can't
exactly.
Just waste your time with
Yeah. Like we don't go to clubs, we don't drink.
Mm.
Just
Yeah.
So those are the things that we started realizing as soon as we hit adults. But why did you ask that question? Is there a secret answer to it? Like what? How much
No,
percent of?
I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
okay.
know, but because I was just thinking, like, while you guys are speaking, that's because we're talking about like morning routines and stuff. That so much of my life has just changed just because of my lifestyle. The fact
Yeah.
that like so much of my mental health has just changed because of like simple lifestyle changes and choices.
Yeah.
And what you guys are saying literally reminds me of this study where these scientists basically were trying to grow plants and trees in something called a biosphere, like a huge glass like container.
Okay.
And the soil was nutrient dense, the water was amazing, there was air coming, sunlight, but the plants would just like grow halfway and then they would just basically break off and they wouldn't grow fully. So, same with the trees. And the scientists like worried, like, or they were thinking, why is this happening? Like we're giving the plants and the trees everything it needs. Like later on, they figured out that the plants and trees had no air.
Mm.
There was no wind and no air. And why that's so important is because the air really compromises the life of a plant or a tree. But when that happens, the plant and the tree basically sink their roots deeper into the soil and they're able to get more nutrients and it makes them more stronger and they continue to grow.
Mm.
They become more resilient.
Yeah, so pain and suffering are things that we also go through just like the wind, the trees and the plants have. But they're there for a reason.
Yep.
And yes, like they affect the life and they compromise the safety of a plant and a tree, but in the end they force the plant to go deeper into with its roots to the nutrients. And so very similarly with life, like you're going to have things that compromise your life and there's going to be things that make it more difficult to live. But if you have nutrients that you can then sink your roots into, which is your friends, the morning routine that you have, the way you think, the way you kind of tackle things, whatever routine or whatever you have, whatever nutrient rich soil you have to sink your roots deep into, that's what ends up helping you grow stronger.
Yeah.
And that actually helps you live like a much better life in the end.
Yeah.
That's so good because like I was just having this thought the other day, like exactly something like you mentioned. It's okay, we're gonna try to create life in a biosphere, which is outside of its natural habitat. And lately, like I've been thinking like how much us as humans have evolved, and I think that's where a lot of like anxiety is stemming from, because we're like constantly sitting on a desk throughout the day. We're not going outside, we're not getting the natural light of the sun, we're not getting that vitamin D. That's why we feel fatigue, because we're staring at screens the whole day. Like the moment you're out of your job, you are on your phone and you come home and you watch TV, and like so it's like it's
exposed to
how
so
like
much.
our lifestyle has changed so much from like I would just say like our great grandparents, like where they would actually use their hands, work in the sun, and then they had such I would like to say the word simple. They had quite simple lives, and for us, like we are better off as humans. Like I mean, it's a great time to be alive. Like okay, we can do whatever work we can from our computer. We can communicate with someone who's halfway across the globe through a phone. We can order food directly to our house. They will like literally deliver it to our hands over here. But I think this is the reason why a lot of people are slowly like losing touch with like basics of life. Like just spending a day at the beach or spending time with family, because they're like, oh yeah, I can just chat with my family on our group chat or something like that. So everyone is really like I don't know. It's not the same as how it used to be.
Yeah.
This is actually so interesting because I'm just thinking of like, so I watched this video where this guy talks about going to the Amazon rainforest and he's speaking to the indigenous people and he has this translator and he's talking to them about like their life and our life, and he was basically talking to them about how we go to supermarkets to get our food. And the indigenous people, they're like, you guys have people committing suicide and you guys have people struggling to live life when you can just get food in the supermarket. And they found that so crazy. And that makes me just think about like, it makes me think about how like life used to be like long time ago,
Right.
when we had to fight for survival, but we were conscious.
Yeah.
And all the threats we had were on the outside. Like if we were trying to hunt and eat, like we had to survive on the outside.
Yeah.
Now we've like kind of evolved, but some tendencies we have are still similar. And so now our threats and the life-threatening things are not on the outside, but it's all psychological.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's so interesting how that like
Shift happened.
shift happens.
Yeah.
So crazy, huh?
And
Yeah.
what I've realized recently is that depression is not being able to let go of the past. Anxiety is constantly worrying about things in the future and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then when you're constantly, because I had depression and anxiety, when you're constantly in the past and in the future, it prevents you from being conscious and present. And when these people had to fight and they had to do all these things, they were probably just really conscious all the time and they were not thinking as much about things related to their mind, maybe. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's one of the most important things, just being aware and conscious of the present moment rather
Being
than
in the
being...
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so well said, huh? Like, cause remember the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So
Yeah.
it's really like that. Like, okay, am I able to sleep without a tiger attacking me tonight?
Mm.
And I was like, oh man, I didn't finish that report I had at work. That's what's keeping me
Yeah.
awake at night. So
Yeah.
it's
It's very different.
so-
It's very
it's so
different
different,
how,
right?
you know, we live our lives. But I think what's most important in what you said is being in the now. We forget that. We forget that because, again, we're so distracted with every single thing that sometimes someone's talking to you, and I'm at fault with this as well. You're talking to me, but I'm on my phone, you know, I'm scrolling, or like something is happening that is important, but, you know, you missed it because you're doing something else or you're distracted. So we have to keep reminding ourselves to be in the now, because the now is now. Then it will become the past. And then you'll get depression because you're like, oh, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. And then you get anxiety because, like, what do I have to do to actually, you know, try to get back what I missed? And it's just a cycle.
Yeah. I saw something the other day where it's like, we're worried about like the clothes we're wearing showing a bit of fat, but like we're on this moving rock in the middle of nowhere. There's a billion stars in the Milky Way, a trillion like everywhere, and we're moving so fast on this rock around space that because we're moving so fast, we don't even feel the fact that we're moving. And like,
exactly
there's so many things that could happen.
That's
in the
true.
perfect
So
distance
many
from
things.
the sun, that we're not too close where we
Yeah.
get burned.
We're
but
scorching.
We're not too far where we would be in
It's
ice
crazy.
age or something. Yeah, and these are things that are happening which you don't even realize, right?
Yeah.
But what I have a question, since you said that you speak to a lot of people about these kinds of things. What are the most common I would say mental health related issues that you see here in the UAE, at least? Because on our last podcast where we spoke up to therapists, one of the things was loneliness, because like
Yeah.
this is
Big
a whole
time.
expat. This is it's an expat country, so like
It's a
90%.
transient country. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 90% people with who have left their families back home come here to work and get a better income and then send money back. So I think one would be loneliness. So what are your thoughts, or like what are the things that you've seen people here actually, like, I would say, suffer from? Is that the right word? Suffer from? Or
Loneliness is definitely a huge one. Lack of purpose. Or even if you don't know your purpose, not having something huge, like bigger than yourself that you're working towards.
Yeah.
Control.
Mm.
A lot of people don't feel like they have control over things when they really do. And then the things that we don't have control over, we for some reason think we have control over them. So we try to fight because we think, oh, I should be able to control this thing. But truth is, you can't. And so when I was talking about the plant and the tree and the air, the plant and tree cannot control the air and the wind that hits it, but it can control the fact that it either moves in a certain direction, or it can control the fact that it sinks its roots deeper into nutrients for it to get more, to be able to be stronger. So I think people focus so much on what they can't control, and they believe that it's something they can control. And then things that we can actually control, our ability to smile, the way we perceive life. These are things people don't think we can control.
Yeah.
And one thing a lot of us do is absolute thinking. So that's kind of like, your boss is a challenging person, but you say he's impossible to deal with. So using certain words, even because using the word impossible gives you the opportunity to not do as much, because you're like, this is never going to work. It's impossible.
Don't take that first step.
But when you use challenging, or use he's like this sometimes, that kind of leaves a pathway for you to do something about it. So controlling things that, not being able to control things that we actually have control over, and trying to control things that we have no control over, definitely that's another problem. Not being able to let go of your parents' past traumas. So, for example, I remember when I was young, my parents and my family was very loving. Until today, sometimes this happens. They were very, very loving people. But when I wasn't able to show them the same amount of love that they showed me, or the way they showed it to me, they would be like, oh, you don't love me enough, or I love you way more. And they would guilt trip me for not loving them as much as they love me.
Right.
Oh,
And they had their way of loving, and if someone loved them otherwise in different ways, it's not love for them.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, when I got into my first or couple relationships, let's not lie here. When I got into my first relationship, I remember overly showering this person with love.
Love bombing, as they call it.
Love bombing them, and because
yeah, it's a new Gen Z term, love bombing. Yeah.
actually I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
She's in touch with all the shit.
Yeah.
Touch.
I try to be. Yeah.
No worries. So yeah, I think when I got into my first relationship, or my first couple relationships, I was just overly showering this person with love, again because I was fear of being alone. Right, so you even picked the wrong partner just to avoid being alone.
Right.
Anyway, so I remember showing this person so much love, and then when they wouldn't show it back to me, I'm like, but you don't love me enough. And they'd be like, I do, I just show it differently.
Yeah.
Or I never asked you to do all these things for me. And so it took me so long and so many relationships to realize that I'm doing this, and I realized, oh, it's something that I get from my family. So there's so many things that we pick up on from our parents, the way our parents handle certain situations as children. And children are the most spiritual beings out there, but also from the ages of 4 onwards, they're so, even younger, they're so observant.
Yeah.
And things you think that they would never pick up on, they actually do pick up on them.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think there are certain things that I would have picked up on that I found very difficult to let go of and unlearn.
Okay.
So yeah,
Because it's been years and years of
it being ingrained
exactly.
into
It's
life.
your roots, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like cutting off something that you grew up with. And it's tough, especially coming from, I would say, Asian households, Asian Arab households, because there are a lot of, not just from our parents, but generations before them that have been passed on generational traumas, and that they're also carrying. So I think it's very interesting that this would probably be the most aware generation of trying to cut off past traumas or generational traumas. And as you said, awareness is the first step. So it's great that we're aware. Second, it's a choice for us to cut it off. So I think it's just going to be better from here onwards. And it's great to see that we are aware of that. And it's tough sometimes to have those conversations with our parents, but it has to happen.
Yeah. No, I agree, because she also did the what is that word? She didn't go in that path of staying in my dad's house or staying in my parents' house until I was married and like move out, but she moved out when she was still single. So like, these are like small things, especially in an Arab Asian household. Like, can you imagine? So it's
That's
things
insane.
like that which is like such difficult conversations to have with your parents, and they won't even understand. Like, why do you want to move out? Like, you're gonna live by yourself at when you're 20, like 26, 27, all by yourself. It's something that you don't hear every day, especially in an Asian household, right? Especially when your parents are in the same country as you. So like, these are small things, I guess, in a way, which a lot of people should actually take into consideration. Or like, I think it's a very big step, because for me, I never had a chance of living on my own, like straight from my parents' house into this house. But she had this transitional period where it's like, okay, what is it like living alone? What is it like fending for myself? What is it like being alone with my thoughts on a day-to-day basis?
That's what I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
So I respect that journey, man.
Yeah. So it's a very respectable journey, and I would say like that's one thing that I regret in my life. But of course, I'm still
You're
I'm
still
still
going
here.
through it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still
you're
here.
going through it.
I'm here the whole day by myself without her. So I think it's throughout the daytime, it's when I have my alone time.
Yeah. Yeah, and people have different journeys, right? So you might not have the same relationship as I had with my parents. You might not have the same relationship with your parents. And we all go through different things. And we just have to know how to weave ourselves out of the things that we don't want to bring forward. As future parents, you don't want that to also be passed on to your future children. And again, everyone's not perfect. Like, it's not like our parents are horrible. They're the most amazing parents anyone could have. But there are things that they have brought down to me, to you, that we don't want to pass on to the future generation. And we just have to be aware of that and make sure that it doesn't push through. Yeah.
I want to say really quickly, like, I've struggled with mental health for a long time. Even some days till now, like yesterday, I was really, really not feeling good. But I want to say shout out to suffering and shout out to pain.
Right.
Because the pain I went through, I was just thinking while you guys were speaking, like, what a privilege to be on a podcast. That's so insane to me. Like, you guys have created this thing, beautiful thing with culture and with all these things, and I'm just honored.
Thank you.
Because I've gone through things. So I now come from a position where I'm able to talk about these things and to reflect and introspect and converse with you guys about it. And I realized that if I didn't go through the suffering I went through, which at the time was so tough, but then it does pass, I wouldn't be here. It permanently changed the way I think, the people I hang out with, the lifestyle I have. And because of that, I'm here. Like, that's so insane. So whatever, like, suffering or pain, like, you have, that's what builds you. And as long as you're able to find what it's trying to show you, because it's very tough to grow and to feel like your life needs to change when everything is going well.
Yeah.
So it's when you're going through like tough times that like grounds you. For me, sometimes I'll do speak to people, but sometimes I just talk to God and I'm like, why? Why? But no, I'm like, why am I feeling this? And I realize that I'm so much more connected with God and my inner being when I'm going through tough times. And so shout out to tough times.
Yes.
I totally agree with this, because Janina and I, we recently got into watching F1. So we're like obsessed with the whole sport and everything. And just today in one of the episodes on Drive to Survive on Netflix, shout out to them, Max Verstappen, he said, I don't learn anything from when I win races.
Yeah.
Whatever I learn is from losing. So it's something very similar to that. Like really huge shout out to suffering, because suffering is an emotion which I'm 100% am an advocate for. You should feel it, should understand it, and then, of course, the most important thing is take action on it. Like, as Janine, there are times when even I've had my anxiety breakdowns, or if I've been having a terrible day or something like that, I also take a moment and step back, and from the outside looking in, I understand, like, where is this coming from? And then I make sure that I take an action on it. Or the weirdest things that I've done when I've had like my lowest moments, like booking a flight to go to trek to Everest Base Camp, going to try to do stand-up comedy, going to solo trips, traveling the world, just to, like, really try to put myself in a better space. And it's because of the suffering where I really learned a lot about myself. And it's the same thing as you, like, okay, I have a comfortable lifestyle living by myself. Oh, I have we're a comfortable lifestyle. Like, let's try to challenge it in a way and maybe get a dog or something like that. Because he was a very tough boy to deal with in the future, especially
Good
from
practice for having a child.
his past trauma had transferred to us. So it's really good to really take in those emotions, and the most important thing as well after that is really making or really deciding on an action that you want to do to achieve it.
Yeah.
Because even when I was in therapy last, there was this he gave me this this task of understanding what jealousy is and understanding what envy is. And for me, I haven't heard the word envy in the longest time, and for me it was always jealousy because in my mind, I also like, how much both of us, we struggle with a lot of imposter syndrome. And there are times I'm like, okay, why does I know I'm in a good place in my life right now. I've done a lot of things to get to where I am, but they're like, do I really deserve this? Or then when you start looking outside, I'm like, oh, okay, this guy has just started doing this recently. How come he's doing better than me and all these things? So there's jealousy, which you can use in a way. It's like, okay, like now I think it's time to up my game or use this as a motivation or as a drive. And then there's envy, where it's like, envy is jealousy, but without action. So it's like, I'm just admiring from distance. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sabotage this guy in some time, or like, I'm going to maybe try to do something which is against his or her favor.
Yeah.
And these are like small things, which you need to really take a step back and understand. And I think that's the reason why I'm a very firm believer about mental health and the things that we need to do to make sure that we're not taking care of our body and our spirit and everything, but also mind. So
it's all connected.
Yeah.
So it's all connected, and there'll never be a finish line. There's never like, okay, once I'm gonna be happy every day, once I wake up happy, once I go to sleep happy, that's when I know I'm in the best place. Like, no, it's a constant journey that you'll have to battle and be victorious every single day.
I will say, like, talking about journeys and suffering and all of these things, like, there's a story of this piece of terracotta clay.
Okay.
And so it's like a talking terracotta clay, and the person that's making something out of it, squeezing it and really deforming it and changing the shape of what it used to be. And it was this comfortable block of just nothingness. And they're making like a structure out of it, and the terracotta clay is screaming to like the person doing it, saying, why are you doing this to me? Like, this is so painful. I was so comfortable before. Why are you stretching me out? I'm gonna break. Like, it's saying all
Why
these
are you
things.
beating me? Why are you?
Yeah. Then the guy so he brings the structure, and the terracotta clay is like, oh, thank you. I look so beautiful now. And then the guy puts the terracotta clay into the boiling, like, what is it?
The furnace.
Yeah, it puts it into the furnace, and it's so hot in the terracotta clay. It's like, oh my God, you're burning me. This is so painful. I'm never going to forgive you for this. Like, why would anyone do this? Then the guy takes it out, and the terracotta clay is almost dead, but the guy takes it out. He looks at it, and the terracotta clay is like, wow, I look so much more beautiful and shiny and polished. And then the guy puts it for the second time, and it's like, yo, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this to me?
Done.
This is so painful. I almost died last time. What's going on? And the guy's like, just wait, just be patient. He takes it out, and it's this beautiful, shiny thing that serves a purpose and that has like a purpose, which before it didn't. But it was just this block of nothingness, which is technically what we come from, like what we were. And then it becomes like this beautiful thing that people use, and that, it serves a purpose. And then towards the end of it, the terracotta clay is like, oh, thank you so much. Like, and so we go through all this suffering, we go through all this pain, and it's tough in the moment. But as soon as you're out of it, that's when you realize, like, I'm so grateful. And actually today, that's what I'm having sitting with you guys, because I'm like, I went through all that suffering. This is like a confirmation that, like, that it was worth something at least.
Yeah.
So
there was a purpose for it.
yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we might not understand it in that moment, like when we're in the middle of a fire or
Impossible.
Yeah.
So tough.
Yeah.
But the moment we rise from that and we come out like stronger and smarter, and like you understand everything, that's when you're like, that wasn't so bad, but I needed that.
Yeah.
I want to tell you guys, like, with this podcasting thing, with like doing all of this, like, you guys have also gone through your own journeys. You're here for a reason. So if you're like I face imposter syndrome all the time.
Yeah.
Especially like with my job, I have to basically take care of the mental health of like 80 people. So it's really tough sometimes, but you have to remind yourself that you've gone through this journey to get to this destination, and that you're going to go through another journey to get to that destination. So if you're here right now, that's because something, or if you believe God, that thing wants you to be here. And don't fight it, because you're never going to win against God or the universe.
Yeah.
So just
true.
accept where you are, appreciate it,
Yeah.
be grateful. And you guys are amazing hosts, actually.
Thank you so much.
You guys are
Thank
really,
you.
really good.
Thank you.
I feel so comfortable right now. So
Thank you so much. Oh, Max, you did a great job as well. He's the third co-host. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank
I
you
just
guys.
wanted to end the podcast with, letting our listeners know where can they find you, if you can plug your Instagram, and if someone's looking for a life coach as well, let them know about you.
Okay, and before that, very quickly, what are the smallest things people can do today to make sure that they start taking care of their mental health? Like it's like, because like the theme, what you mentioned, what was the theme for this year's Mental Health Day?
Mental Health Day theme is a universal. Well, mental health is a universal right.
Universal right. So in that sense, it should be something that everyone should be taking upon themselves. And of course, there are the paid resources which people can go, like therapy, like coaches, buying some books or something, or like subscribing to like meditation guides and everything. But what are the smallest steps which people can do, which maybe don't cost a lot of money, that can be easily accessed by like literally any Tom, Dick, and Harry, that they can start doing to improving their mental health? And then you can close off by telling us how people can reach out to you, where they can find you, what are your future plans, and everything like that. So
Yeah. In terms of simple lessons, I know I repeat this a lot, and trust me, my friends are so annoyed at me because I always say this, but literally journaling and meditating.
Yep.
I know, like, I've already spoken about that,
Yeah.
but it's just like, I promise you guys that it genuinely saved my life. And if it wasn't for those two really simple like things, I would not be here. And so meditate and journal always. One thing I've recently been doing a lot more of while I'm not in therapy, reading. So I'm reading a book called The Untethered Soul, and this book is just amazing as well. So reading, watching podcasts, analyzing your life a little bit through journaling is really important. Knowing where you want to be, knowing what you want to feel, praying. Like, praying is one of the biggest ones. I don't know. Even if you don't have like a God, just pray to something.
Yeah.
Right? And that's everything I've done. And the thing is that it seems simple, but there's like levels to it. And
Oh, yeah.
you start with
Yeah.
one thing,
Right.
then, like, it's the most basic things that you understand from so many different perspectives that give you this holistic approach to understanding who you are.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say just being conscious, and it's free being conscious.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have
don't
to pay for that.
So even if you're working, even if like anything you're doing, just be conscious and be aware of who's there behind the mind. Like, the mind is this constant thing that's speaking, but observe the mind. Don't just be the mind, and try to disconnect. And physical health is something everyone talks about. And what was the thing that they said was like, physical health is like a right? Or
Yeah.
human
So
right?
yeah, it's a universal human right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mental health is universal.
Mental health is a universal. Yeah. So
human right.
if
Yeah.
physical health is, and we're
Yes.
made out of the body, the mind, and the soul.
Right.
Physical health is important, of course, but mental health is equally, if not more important.
Yeah.
And so is spiritual health. Because I remember a time when I had just quit drugs and my physical health was so bad. Every day, puking, diarrhea, cold sweats, shivering. But my mind was at peace for the first time. And that made getting over it so much easier. So
Right.
please focus on your mental health and also on your spiritual health. Do things that make you feel spiritual. We have coffee to wake our bodies up and our brains up. What are you doing to wake your spirit up?
Right.
Is there something you're doing? If not, then find something.
Amazing.
That's what I would say.
That's
What was
great.
the last thing?
And just your closing remarks, where they can find you, or
Of course. How could I
or-
forget to
Yeah.
plug myself?
Yeah, plug yourself,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
On Instagram, Finding Lighthouses. That's where I post content. If you want my life coaching services, for sure, you can ask, and I'm happy to do that. YouTube, yeah, just OK Lighthouse. That's my YouTube. I have a podcast.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get as good at it as you guys are with yours.
You will.
So Yeah, I have that. And actually, you guys should come on.
Yeah.
would love to.
Yeah.
You guys should come on.
Yes.
I've
Would
never
love
had a
to.
couple. That would be such an
Okay.
interesting thing.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here. That was amazing. We've learned some new things that we don't really practice, and
Yeah, exactly. I've learned a lot.
I'm now inspired to be just going to level 2 of journaling.
Ooh,
Just
can
not
we end
just
with
a-
one thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
What are 5 things you guys are grateful for?
I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for this podcast. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for my family. And I'm grateful for, did I say Max?
No.
No, I'm grateful for Max, my dog, our dog.
I'm grateful for a lot of things, like exactly the same things that she said. Like I resonated so much with those, but I think just one thing that it's like I have gratitude for the smallest things in life, which a lot of people take for granted.
Hmm.
I love that.
Like having clean water to drink, having food on the
Mm.
table every day,
Mm.
having hobbies. Because a lot of people, like you said, like they're just going through life not knowing what the purpose is. But I think a good way to start is just having a hobby, something that gets you excited, something that gets you excited outside your 9 to 5. Like what you do from your 5 to 9 is very important for us. Like we would like to maybe wind down by watching TV, as simple as that, or video games. We're both into video games or sports or something like that.
Mm.
So I think just having access to that is something that I'm very, very grateful for.
What are you
love
grateful
that.
for?
I'm gonna go kind of big. Oxygen.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yes.
Plants, because when I first came in the room, I was feeling a little bit anxious.
Yeah.
And I think on parts of the podcast you'll see I'm actually shaking.
Yeah.
But plants really calm me down, so
Okay.
I'm really grateful. that you
Great.
guys
We have a
some
lot of
plants.
those around.
We have a lot, and we have just been on a binge of plants, and we're like
Plant
really
mom and
taking
plant dad,
yeah,
do it.
Yes.
Do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So oxygen, plants in this room, you guys, and you texting me to do this. That
I know
was
it's
great.
very late because he reached out to us when I just saw the date. It was in March
Yeah.
of this year, and I literally got back to him this week. But I'm so glad that we were able to make it work
Yes.
in the shortest time
The
possible.
stars
and
aligned.
yeah, it
and
was
it's
divine
perfect.
timing.
Yeah.
yeah,
for
it was
sure.
perfect
Yeah.
timing. Yeah,
Also cells in our bodies, like
Yes.
cells and organs, because we don't really think about it, but they're just doing all these like insane things. And if one of them were to falter or something were to happen, it would we would not be able to live. So the fact that we
Yes.
just have cells that unconsciously do things and have these special it's amazing. So yeah,
Yes.
cells in our body. This book, because it's got me out of my anxiety attack yesterday.
Okay.
So when I was
Untethered soul.
I was literally shaking in my room, curled up into a ball. I got some food, didn't work. I tried to call a friend, didn't work. I ended to curling up in a ball and reading this book, and it got me out of it.
Okay.
So I'm grateful for that. And I'm gonna go basic now. Music.
Nice.
Okay.
And music.
Okay.
Because music.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Music
Yeah.
brings us
and
through
music actually,
a lot
yeah,
of- yeah.
that I didn't think of.
Brings
how
out a lot of
much
emotions as
music
well.
has really.
That's true.
Recently, I wake up and first thing I think about like these last days has been like a song. So I'll just play in the morning while I brush my teeth.
Nice.
So yeah,
nice.
music is one of them.
Music.
Thank you to music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you for your
Um,
time.
Thank you.
I know
guys.
it was. I think maybe like you had some difficult conversations or discussions on this podcast, and we really appreciate that. Like
Today.
for
Yeah,
you
of
being very
course.
vulnerable, and yeah, I think it's a great way for listeners to really know like whatever they're experiencing, they're not alone. There are a lot of things that
Yes.
they can start doing to really change
That's true.
whatever they're going through, and like really it's not a negative thing to feel, but something that they should really just soak in and try to
Embrace.
take things from there. It's like it's not a bad feeling, like it's okay to not be okay.